real life. And so, yeah, let us start with introductions. So Priscilla, if I can please ask you to tell us about the company, a little bit about the history, a little bit about the products, and then we'll go on with questions and answers.
Okay, now the name of the company is Oval Confectionery Limited. I founded it in 2006, active business in 2008. Now, what it is that because I didn't have my own machinery at the time, I was picking semi-processed chocolate, that is couverture, milk, dark and white chocolate couverture from Cocoa Processing Company. Is one of the biggest cocoa processing companies in Ghana. So I started on a small, note, and I was just growing through the years, and then with a little money that I made, a few here and there, grants here and there, I bought tempering machines, and then I finally bought a Cocoa Town cocoa making chocolate making machine that processes the cocoa beans to the chocolate syrup. So that's why. But then my capacity is small. So I'm trying to grow to increase my capacity, and also with a few trainings that I've had here and there in Europe and so forth. I think that people like my chocolate, so I want to find good marketing tools. For example, I was selling puff that I when I was in Germany. Well, I lived in Germany for a while. I also went to school there. Now I was telling him that one of the courses that I took at the University of Mannheim is software and internet technology. Okay, and then I was attached to Vivendi Universal Games. Okay, so one of the things that I noticed is that you can actually have inbuilt games or educational tools which you can use to sell a product. Okay, so that is also one thing that I'm looking at very intently. If you can get, because one of the products that I have is targeted at kids and teenagers. Okay, it's the soft pebbles, just like you have these Maltesers and stuff. Okay, so then it's when students buy it, they have little questions in them that they can answer, and then they can download an app onto their phones, in which when they buy the product and then they insert their answer, moves them to a higher level. And so then the interest in buying purchasing the product and also answering those questions is going to pique their interest and thereby increase sales and then boost sales, and then thereby expanding the company.
That's a very interesting idea. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Can you tell us a little bit more about the products? So you make not only chocolate, right? You also make other types of candy, or just chocolate?
No, just chocolate. I have the gourmet type, which is just like Ferrero Rocher. Okay.
Uh-huh.
Now the Ferrero Rocher, so there's the type that I add liquor, and the time that I add just flavorings, nuts, raisins, and according to the customer's wishes. Okay, and those I sell in the supermarket. Mm-hmm. And then I have the chocolate bars. Mm-hmm. Okay, those are I'll be launching them very soon. But those I made the chocolate bars for corporate bodies or blue chip companies who are celebrating one thing or the other. So and they want to have bars and give out to their customers. Okay, yeah. And then I also customize or brand the pebbles for the same blue chip companies, and then the gourmet also for the same blue chip companies according to what they want and what inscriptions that they want written on a special packaging that they prefer.
Right.
So that's what So this where I'm at now, and then I'm trying to, at the same time that I'm trying to launch the bars on a commercial basis, I'm also trying to come up with a good recipe for spread, the bread spread.
Right.
Something like Nutella.
Yeah.
Something like Nutella. Yeah.
Yeah, that's interesting. My kids love that stuff, so yeah, you can take as much as you want. Yeah.
Yeah. Right. Yeah. So that's also what I'm looking at now.
Yeah. Insaf here had a question and raised his hand. So Insaf, can you talk? Can you ask a question? I'm not sure. So he also.
He said, "What's the name of the chocolate they do?"
Yes. Yeah. That's the question. Yeah. So do you sell it under the same brand, or is it a different brand that you use?
No, it's the same brand, but just a different product. The name of my brand is Ovos. Ovos.
Yeah. What does it mean? So I see the name of the company, Ovo, and then what does it mean? What was the meaning of that name?
Ovo means from the beginning or from the egg. It's a Latin expression. Yeah.
Interesting. That's a clever, creative name.
Yeah.
And so obviously we have a lot of questions about the customers. So you did mention that you sell your products through the supermarkets. So it basically goes to regular consumers. So what's the distribution kind of chain? How does it work?
Okay. Now, when we produce here, we give them to distributors. We have big supermarket chains that take it directly from us. Okay. So now we're trying to reach as many supermarkets because between Accra, the capital of Ghana, and another big town, like we have Accra, Tema, Kumasi, Takoradi, Cape Coast. I mean, the big towns, the big regional capitals. And we have certain supermarket chains that I also supply to. Okay, but the only thing is that my capacity is not enough for their orders. Okay, it's not enough because, for instance, I have an order now that instead of it taking me just a few days, it's taking me almost 10 days to try to get the order, you know. And so far as I'm trying to get funding to expand, I want a very sound marketing tool that will make my products the preferred choice.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and in terms of the ingredients, so you said they're all local, or where do you source I guess you need you need cocoa, you need sugar?
Yeah, okay. With the cocoa, I source it from Ghana. I mean, we grow cocoa, so that's pretty easy. Right. I applied for a cocoa buyer's license. I hear it's been granted. So they're just going to come inspect my premises to see, my storage facilities, and then I think it's going to be issued. And then the other ingredients are milk, that's milk powder, sugar. Sugar is imported into the country, but I just don't use sugar. It has to be milled so I get icing sugar. I use icing sugar. Yeah. And then apart from that, I use, soy lecithin and a few other, ingredients that, are part of my trade secrets to give the chocolate that kind of nice taste that it has.
Yeah. Now, several students shared with me that they believe the fact that your chocolate comes from Africa, it makes it so unique, so exotic, so attractive, like nobody sells chocolate from Africa, even though the ingredients are African. And so many people believe that it would be a hot product in Europe, in America, just because it's different. So tell us about your geography. Where do you sell now, and what specific regions you would be interested in trying to sell your product?
Okay. Now, right now in Africa, quite a few chocolate companies have sprung up. So you can find, chocolates from Ghana, and let me see, there's some in South Africa. So far the companies that are from Ghana and South Africa who are trying to sell their chocolates across the continent. Okay, most of the ingredients, the main ingredient, which is cocoa. It's can be found in Africa. Especially Ghana, Ivory Coast. Okay, so that's pretty easy. Now with my kind of ingredients that I use, I use the local. Like cocoa. I use milk. I use the icing sugar. But because of my training outside, and then the kind of taste that I know that Europeans and Americans like, it's also be good to mix certain ingredients that I import with the ingredients that I find here to come up with exotic taste,
right,
that people will find very interesting.
Yeah. Well, several students shared with me that they believe it will be a very popular product in Europe and North America. And so there is this always kind of bias. People always like imported things. Like in the United States, American cars are cheaper, Japanese cars are more expensive, or German cars are more expensive. In, for example, wine, same thing. So nobody thinks in the United States that American wine is great. They want French wine, they want Italian wine. And so people think it could be the same thing with your product. It can actually be more popular on other continents than in Ghana or in Africa. So, just the fact that it's exotic, it's from somewhere else. So the question then is, let's say our students do go to local, chains of supermarkets in, let's say, the United States, in Europe, and there is interest, will you be able to scale up? Will you be able to sell, to produce larger quantities if the contract started coming in?
Sure. Now, if one funny thing over here in Ghana is that with the scaling, when they see that you have a contract, I mean, coming from Europe or Americas, now they take it more serious because they know that yes, now you're going to scale up. I mean, you're going to help you scale up, and then they see in their eyes. I mean, they see money. So
right.
helping help. I mean, it's not too far away when they see these contracts we signing. That kind of how do I say that kind of interest from Americas or from Europe.
Yeah. Well, let's see how it goes. But as I said, it seems to me that it can become a very, very popular product. Maybe even, like there are some Japanese brands, for example, that are not expensive in Japan, but very expensive in the United States and Europe, because in Japan, it's just another Japanese product. Here, like, whoa, it's, it's from somewhere else. It's so cool. So there is a good chance, so there is a good chance it may actually be, see much more demand in other countries than in your sort of backyard. Maliha, can you talk? You have a very interesting question I added to the panel. There is one student, and again, sometimes students join from the classroom. So can you talk?
Yes, can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you. Yeah, go ahead with your question. You have a very interesting question, and probably one that is relevant in the context of scaling up and expanding into new countries. So what was your question?
I was asking if you are interested in investors.
So do you need any additional funding to grow up, or you got that under control?
Is the question directed at me?
Yes, yeah, that's a question for you. So would you also be interested in attracting funding, or you're good with that?
Oh, I'll be interested in attracting funding. I mean, 100% of zero is zero. I mean, but if you have funding and you've got partners, I think it's even better, because then they can also help you get access to certain markets that ordinarily you wouldn't have been able to. Yeah.
Now, tell us, there are a few questions about marketing. So how do you currently market your product? How do you differentiate yourself from the competition? What marketing channels do you use? Do you place any ads on TV, newspapers, or is it direct marketing to the retailers? How do you promote your product at this time?
Okay, I promote them through all. Now, I used to have TV adverts. Now they got too expensive, so I put that on the back burner.
Right.
So right now we go directly to the people, our consumers, go directly to them. And also another way of promoting my product is through the blue chip companies. When I customize for them, when I brand for them, I have my details at the bottom, and then they look out for my products. Once they call, or when they communicate that hey, where can I get your product to buy? I show them where it can be bought and all that. Yes, and then we're trying to come up with something called in Ghana we have these little we call them truck shows. They're like little vans that are a means of commuting between the suburbs and stuff. We call and those are little buses and vans. And so there's a company called Truck TV, which they have little TVs, flat TVs installed in those commuters, which people can see your ad, and it's less expensive.
Right.
And that is even better, because then a lot of people, thousands of people patronize those truck shows.
Yeah.
So that also catches their eye and then boosts your marketing strategies. For people to know where they can find the products and stuff like that. Yeah.
Exactly.
At the moment, the reason why I'm looking for funding to scale up, because when you do these adverts and then people start looking for you and they can't find you, you're creating an avenue for somebody else to come in.
Right.
So we want to get everything right. Then we can just hop onto that tool. Yeah.
Well, one big question or advice where we need from you is how can the students help you promote the product? So normally what happens is there would be a company like yours that seems to be doing well in its own market, but is willing to expand. And in most cases,
Yeah.
the companies ask our students to not only come up with ideas for how the product can be promoted, but maybe even try to sort of get a contract for the company. For example, we had a case a couple of years ago. It was an Italian company that makes shoes. And so they wanted to expand into new markets. And so students literally went to some of the stores in their countries asking if they would like to buy like a container just to test the product. And so we were lucky. We had someone here in the United States whose uncle or cousin had a chain of shoe stores. And so he showed him the product. And the guy says, yeah, sure, I would like to buy a few hundred pairs just to see if it works. And so they tried, and to my knowledge, it's actually going well. So the question then is, do you think it would be a good idea if the students in their respective countries, and we have 56 countries this semester in Xculture, so if they tried to maybe talk, I don't know, to the local supermarkets, maybe see if their parents can have some connections and help them with that, maybe, I don't know, literally just stop by and talk. And if so, what should they say? And then if the store says, yes, I'm interested in buying the first shipment just to see if it works, is that something you would be interested in? Would you be able to satisfy those orders and see how it goes?
Yeah. Yes, I will be able to satisfy those orders. And in fact, when I get a contract, it's even going to help. If, for example, if I have the capacity I have now, will not be able to satisfy that. But just with that contract alone, my bank will be able to support me and say, hey, yes, that's a good thing. So let's help you get another one or two machines to support of what you have or you already have, just to satisfy this person. Because hey, you never know. They will like my chocolate so much that now the orders are going to come in, and so I'm going to need more machinery. You know, that's how it starts. Yes, I'll be very much interested in that.
I will also add that for the students, it would be a very good idea to try to survey potential customers. And so what I mean here is that it may not be necessary to go right away to the store and say, would you buy this product? But at the very least, what you should try to do, each team member should try to talk to 3-5 friends and ask them if they would be interested in a product, like, for example, you know, chocolate from Ghana. And just to get a sense of what the customers think, you know, you ask them, do you buy chocolate? Yes. Which one do you buy? Why? How do you make the choices? If your store was selling a product like this, would you buy it? What would be kind of the appealing message? And so by doing that survey, you will better understand what the customer think, and you will be better to come up, you know, you students will have a better idea what kind of marketing strategy you can propose to the company. Additionally, you can talk to your local store owners. And again, same thing, ask them, how do they select the suppliers of their, for example, you know, chocolates, for example? Why did they select the ones that they work with? Would they consider buying the chocolate from Ghana? If so, what would it take them to get the contract? So when you students do that research, you get a much better idea of how customers think. And as a result, you can come up with better ideas for the company. So hopefully the students will try to do that. And then once they have those data, I suppose, you know, they can share this with the company, but also it may lead to some contracts. As I said in the past, what we've had was the student goes and talks to the people and they say, yeah, I like the product. And then they go and talk to the potential distributors, retailers, consumers, and they say, sure, yeah, if you give me a try, you know, I'm willing. And so, and then in many cases, it does lead to some sort of a contract or agreement, or at least a letter of intent that the company can then take and go, like, for example, to a bank. So try that. Malika, I see you have more questions. I added you here if you want to go ahead. I really like your question about the pricing. So if you want to clarify what you want to know there. Can you hear us? Can you talk?
Yes.
Yeah, go ahead.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can hear you.
I was asking that how much does your product cost? Is it like normal American chocolates, or is it higher?
Yeah, what is your pricing strategy? Is it more expensive than normal, less expensive?
No, it's less expensive because you see, if you're entering a market, you need to make your prices very affordable. So then as people when the product gets more popular, then the prices get inched, because then you know that then your costs are going to rise. So then you're inching the prices bit by bit. But for right now, because I'm entering the market, it's not so expensive. I mean, for example, like a box of gourmet is about $6, which
that's way too low. Way too low. The students would have to do some market research. I recommend that you students do, again, all of you are business students, most of you are business students, MBA students, so you know how to do market research and you know what pricing strategy is. I will not be surprised if it may be more beneficial to drastically increase the price so that you send the image and the kind of create the image of high quality exotic, exquisite, like unusual, expensive product. I will not be surprised if the price demand went up as the price goes up. So you don't want to create an image of a cheap chocolate, right? You want to. So again, students, you think about that. So you do your research, you consult maybe your professors about that, maybe talk to the retailers. But obviously there is a question in your challenge on the pricing strategy. And so once you select the market, do some research there. I will not be surprised that cheap will not be the best kind of adjective that you will use when described in this product, because it sounds to me like it's a product that may become kind of like higher end. So it's not your regular generic brand. It's something that customers may appreciate and will be willing to pay more. One more question, and again, students will do research on that, but logistics and shipping. First, how perishable is the product? I mean, can it survive for a few weeks in transit, or is it something that must be consumed within a few days after production?
No, it would actually, the shelf life of the product is a year.
And it's probably it doesn't have to be refrigerated or anything like that, right?
No. It doesn't have to be refrigerated.
So then shipping to other countries shouldn't be a problem, right? It's not something that
it shouldn't be a problem, no.
And then also, do you know if countries have some sort of a requirement for certification or food inspection? I mean, it's a food product, so I suppose some countries may have some barriers. Should students do research on that?
In Ghana, we have a regulatory body. That's a Food and Drugs Board, and we have Ghana Standards Board. And they are very strict. So, and also, I know in the US you have the FDA also. So before the FDA, before the product is shipped to the US or any other country, they will also want to know our standards here. Sometimes they even come to the country to inspect, your premises and how production procedures and stuff like that. They also have certain standards. So all those things will have to be looked at.
Right. Yeah. So for the students, then again, one of the areas that you will have to research is what are the requirements and basically a certification, licensing, whatever they call it in the country, to bring in foreign-made food items. So would it need to be inspected in some way? How to obtain that certification? How much does it cost? How much time does it take? So do some research on that. It will be a good exercise for you so you know how it works. But it also would be very useful information for the company. I assume every country has a different regulation, and so it would be useful for us to know if there are any sort of, administrative barriers on importing that kind of product in the country that you propose. There is one question, Priscilla. Would you also be interested in suggestions for new product sort of designs or new recipes or new flavors?
Yes, I would.
Yeah, it seems like some students have some ideas, always wanted to make their own chocolate. So yes, students, if you have some interesting ideas, include it in the report. We'll see. I don't know, maybe you'll come up with some interesting new flavor or idea or packaging that may be interesting to the company. So we'll see. There are a few more questions for you personally, and I hope it's okay to ask them. So you're obviously a very successful female entrepreneur. So do you find it's difficult to be a woman in charge of a business? Do you find any difficulties kind of being, business normally is dominated by men, at least I know in the countries I've been to. So is it challenging to be a woman, a female business owner? Tell us a little bit more about that. Yeah.
Yes, Ghana is a patriarchal society. It's a male-dominated society. So if you're a woman, you have your business, you're successful. A lot of men don't like that. They and especially when you have males working for you. If you're a woman, the culture setting they don't find it too palatable that they are taking orders from a woman. It's just that now things are changing a bit, but
Oh, right. You have to manage people too. I assume some of your subordinates are male, right?
Yes, most of them are male.
Yeah.
So, and so they find it a bit difficult. So I work with younger men. Because then it's not too. So they see me like a mother figure. Because when you bring in a male who is the same age as you, or a bit older than you, they feel very. They feel incomplete. I think they feel inferior.
Right.
They think that so it's very difficult to work with me.
So one of the questions is from the student. So she's saying she wants to own her own business. What advice would you have for her? And then another question: if you could go back in time, would you change anything in your education or training to make you more prepared for the role that you're in now?
Yeah. If I was to take go back in time, I would have been more engineering. Engineering inclined because my father was a mechanical. Yeah, my father was a mechanical engineer, and he always used to tell. My mother was a pharmacist, and they always used to tell me that the world evolves around science. Now, the reason why I didn't take any of their professions was because I hated chemistry. I just hated chemistry. But I don't know. Oh yeah. Because my teacher didn't make me fall in love. I was good in mathematics, physics, and all, but my chemistry teacher was not the best. That was why I didn't take. But to go back in time, I would have taken more interest in engineering or IT based kind of profession. Okay, yeah, because then
that's a very good advice. Yeah. That's an interesting advice. Most of the speakers, when they get this question, they talk about kind of abstract things like, be creative, think big. But you're right. In many cases, technical expertise is as important or maybe even more important. That's a very good advice.
Yeah, I tell you something. When I was in Germany, I got the opportunity to study at a polytechnic of it's a technical university, okay, in Mannheim. And I was supposed to study automation, okay? And I was supposed to study automation. Now, and they said, well, because of the mathematics in it, I would have to live on campus for about at least a year to really get a basis of what lay ahead of me. My husband did not support me because he thought that hey, why are you're going to do engineering? It means that you're going to earn more money than I am. You're going to look down on me. I'm like, no. Because my parents, because I had that background from my parents. My mother was a pharmacist. My father was an engineer, and both of them were very successful. But he felt, insecure. And the university was so disappointed.
That's an unexpected challenge, right?
Yeah, the university was so disappointed because I was going to be the first female and a black person at that.
Oh, that's,
So they were very distant. So I had to take the University of Mannheim Software and Internet Technology, and even that one was a difficult, course.
Interesting. Interestingly, I would note that my university here in North Carolina, we have an agreement with the University of Mannheim, and so we have a group of students from Mannheim here every spring, and then our students go there every fall. So we have this, it's been going on for years, so we actually have a very close relationships with that school, so yeah.
That's good. As we speak, my son he's also on an exchange, he's on internship at the University of Maryland.
That's also, just a few hours away from here. Yeah, very close. Yeah.
He's there right now. He's a first class student. He's doing mechanical engineering. So he's doing an internship at the University of Maryland, and he's loving it. I spoke to him last night. He was very excited.
I will actually be there in 2 weeks. My daughter is a gymnast, and so they have a competition in Washington, D.C., so we have to go through Maryland to get to D.C. So I don't know, maybe we'll connect. Maybe I don't know, if he's on my way, maybe I can even, meet for a cup of coffee or something, because I will be there in 2 weeks.
Yes, I'll tell him, and then
if you maybe can put us in touch.
I'll give you.
So he's Maryland, College Park?
Yes, he's at College Park.
That's exactly, we're kind of going through that city. Oh, maybe we can even meet for a cup of coffee or something, And for students, those of you who don't know, that's actually one of the best universities in the world. So it's one of the best universities, like literally in the United States. So it's right outside Washington, D.C., so that's a very, very good school. At least in my area, in international business, they have some of the biggest names. So yeah.
Oh, that's good. That's good.
Malika, so we have a student. Malika, you have a very interesting question here about the unique product. So if you want to voice it, can you talk? Malika, go ahead.
I was asking, what is your main product? Like, what makes you unique from other chocolate companies?
So what makes your product unique? Yeah.
What makes my product? Because one, it's from Ghana. We have the best chocolate in the world.
Yeah.
And of course, combined with very interesting recipes, makes it more unique. Because when you taste chocolates from elsewhere in the world and you compare with ours has a real cocoa taste. In fact, because of the way the cocoa is planted and the way it's harvested and the way it's readied for production, it's very different from what Ivory Coast does. Because Ivory Coast, they have plantations, okay? So they treat the cocoa like, just like any other crop. But we have a very unique way of harvesting and then drying it. It's almost like
how does it grow? So what is cocoa? So it's like a bean, or is it a nut, or what is it?
It's a fruit with a hard cover, and so when you burst it open, then you see the seed. It's neatly arranged in it, like the shape of the pod, and that's when you disintegrate, and then you dry it. It's sun dried, and then the way it's dried, then when you take them out of the pod, you put them on. Well, what they do here is very rudimentary. Okay, they put it on plantain leaves. Okay, plantain leaves spread. They spread on the farm floor, and they put the cocoa beans on it, and then they cover it with more plantain leaves and some other leaves, and then it ferments.
Oh, so you can say that it's kind of handmade in a sense from that perspective, right?
Yeah.
Actually, I think that would be also a very nice selling point. So it's not kind of all machinery, impersonal. So it's a little bit more like like the traditional way. So does it grow on trees or bushes, or like what does the plant itself look like?
It grows on trees. It's got a cocoa tree, and the fruit is oval shaped. Okay, and so when you burst it open, you see that the seeds arranged very neatly in it. Okay, and that's when you take out of the pod, and then you disintegrate it, and then it's kind of it's wet. Okay,
so the seeds, that's what you want, right? So seeds, that's the product.
Yes, that's a product.
Huh, interesting. So yeah, I eat chocolate. I never knew what it like. I have no idea.
Yeah, that's well, yeah. And so it's so that the seeds are dried, and then when in the preparation of chocolate, the seeds are roasted. Okay, they are roasted at a certain temperature, and then when you take it out of the oven, you have to deshell it. You have to remove there's a shell. There's an outer shell. Okay, and that outer shell, when you remove it, it also serves as fertilizer. You can use it as fertilizer.
That's nice. Yeah, right. Makes sense. Yeah.
Yeah. Yes, and then the inner so the inner one that is roasted is called the cocoa nib. NIB, the cocoa nibs. So the cocoa nibs are the ones that are used for the chocolate. So that is what is ground. It's ground to the finest level, and then the other ingredients are added, like sugar. That's why you add the icing sugar. You add your milk powder. You add the other ingredients. I mean, if you want to do something like there's another cocoa. There's another chocolate thing that you add hazelnuts. Okay. So then So I mean, there's so many ways of making good chocolate. It depends on the recipe that you want and how you want it. So you have to keep on experimenting until you get a right taste that you think that you want.
It would be so interesting to see the production facilities. Like I wish you were closer so that we can have a tour of the factory. So that would be very
next time. We're roasting cocoa right now. We're roasting cocoa beans right now. So the next time we have a webinar, I will show you how.
That would be nice. Yes.
And, I'll show you how that is made. Yeah.
There is one more question of technical nature. What is your cost structure? So what are your main expenses? Is it labor? Is it raw materials? Is it marketing? Or what percentage each constitutes in the total cost?
Okay, I would say 40% goes into the production, because you have to buy the cocoa beans, you have to buy the recipes and stuff. 10% to go to labor costs, logistics and stuff. Another 10% is going to go into marketing and stuff. So then the rest should serve as a profit. Now, where the production is a bit tricky, because if you're able to get your production lines right, then the costs are less. Okay, because for example, if you engage too many people, that's when your salaries, your wages and salaries go up. So when you have automated machines, that means you don't need too many human beings around. That's the way the cost structure goes.
That makes perfect sense. Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So we're almost out of time. If there will be more questions, I suppose we will send you them by email, and then let us plan to have maybe another webinar sometime in April. So the students are just starting now to work on the challenge. They will be selecting the companies this week. So we have about 4,000 students in the late track, and so they will be. I'm not sure how many of them will choose the chocolate company, but I think quite a few will. And so once they
Okay.
start working, once they start, thinking about those questions, they'll probably have some ideas. They'll probably want some feedback. So let's try to schedule another webinar sometime in early April. And by that time, I guess we will reverse the tables. So we will let students do most of the talking and then maybe ask for your feedback and comments on what they have at that time.
Sure. Sure, yeah. That'll be wonderful.
Well, thank you so much. So I will share the recording with those who couldn't attend live. And yeah, thank you. Thank you so much. Let's hope the students will bring you lots of interesting ideas.
I wish you for the best.
Thank you. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Bye-bye.
Okay.
Bye-bye.
Nice evening.
Yeah. Good questions, students. Thank you.